Good afternoon. 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 And many more to you. All right. Welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. And it is Valentine's Eve or something like that, right? Something like that. Tomorrow is Friday the 13th, and I love Friday the 13th. You know why? Because something amazing usually happens on 13 days for me. It's never been a bad thing. That's a bit of mythology. But 13 is a very prophetic number. It's the number when things come to pass. So I look forward to Friday. It is Daring Dialogues. Again, I'm your host, Shantae Charles, and today is Thinking Thursday, Theology Thursday. And good afternoon to those of you coming in. Pastor Ben, I see you. So we are going to hop right in. We're going to look at one Black History Month icon from our book we've been reading from daily. We're going to be looking at this reading today, Reparations, a Christian call for repentance and repair, because contrary to propaganda, there are some Christians who know and believe that Black people need to be repaired in this country, and they've written a whole book on it. So that's what we're reading from. We're trying to anchor ourselves in reality, data, and research rather than propaganda. And I wanted to show you all this lovely, beautiful book. I've had it for a couple of years now, and I have not wanted to open this book because it just looks so beautiful looking at it. But if we decide to do some Women's History Month programs, because we are coming to an end of our season 17, and we usually take a break. I'm actually going to do bonus episodes for season 17 just to continue through Black History Month. But technically, we do end on episode 50. However, if we get to, or if we decide to do some episodes in March on our break time, I will be using this book. I'm finally going to break it open. See how lovely that looks? Isn't that lovely? It's called Supreme Actresses. I have a lot of books of biographies, short biographies of people. And this was one I picked up a couple of years ago, and I just have not opened it. See that? It's still sealed. And there's Lupita on the back. So for Women's History Month, if we do some episodes, we might do maybe one episode a week in the month of March because we're supposed to go on break. But we will read from this book here, Supreme Actresses, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Hollywood. And so let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in us doing some reading aloud from this book. It would just be one time a week in March. And let us know if you're interested. All right. Moving right along. Let's get to our let's get to our person for this book. Notice the word iconic is being used a lot quite lately. Illustrated Black History, honoring the iconic and the unseen. Today, we are reading about Bethann Hardison. Now, I know who Bethann Hardison is, but a lot of people may not know her. They more than likely know her son and probably don't know her. All right, let's take a read. She is presently still living. Bethann Hardison was born in 1942. She says, I enjoy being an elder and the wisdom that comes with it, but age is just something I just don't give into. At a 1973 Versailles fashion show promoted as a fundraiser to restore France's largest palace, American celebrities mixed with European royalty. But in truth, the show, later known as the Battle of Versailles, became a competition between older, established French houses like Dior and Givenchy and designers representing the Americans, Stephen Burrows, Anne Klein, Oscar de la Renta, and Bill Blass. 11 models of color were prominently featured by the American designers, adding to the impression of a competition between the old and new guards. Bethann Hardison walked in the Burroughs show. Her thin frame, natural close-cropped hair, and dark brown skin had made her stand out ever since she began modeling in 1967. A native of Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, she'd been discovered while working as a representative for Cabot, a button company. Eventually, she became a runaway model for Burroughs, whose line was joyous, full of color, showing skin against the rich soundscape of funky R&B. Let's see. When it was her turn in Versailles, she walked down the runway with the force of a performer, wearing Burroughs' sleeveless yellow gown. At the end of the stage, she stared straight at the audience, defiantly throwing down the train of her dress. She held the pose while music thundered around her. It was a wrap. The audience leapt to their feet, stomping, yelling, throwing their event programs into the air. It was clear who the winner was, although several designers had yet to present. She had stolen the show. Hardison was more than a show-stopping runway model. In 1984, she launched an agency, Bethann Management. It wasn't a Black modeling agency, but a modeling agency owned and led by a Black woman. The company represented diverse models who worked for brands such as Chanel, Issey Miyake, and Yves Saint Laurent. In 2020, Hardison told Elle magazine, I started getting calls from them. Bethann, we need a great Black girl. I would say things like, okay, how many girls are you using? And they'd say 35. And I'd say, okay, you want one Black girl? I was very good at turning the tables on them to let them see how awful that sounds. With model entrepreneur Iman, Hardison co-founded the Black Girls Coalition in 1988 as a way to build community among the Black models of that era, including Naomi Campbell and Veronica Webb. But the group evolved to advocate for issues specific to Black people's representation in fashion and in advertising. In honor of her groundbreaking career, in 2014, Hardison received the Founders Award from the Council of Fashion Designers of America. Hardison has been recognized by countless organizations for her dedication to diversity and inclusion. I never thought I was contributing to a movement, Hardison said in a 2020 interview. I always think when things are happening, we are the movement. Well said, and said well. Now, most of us in my age category and group most likely know her son from a different world. Her son is the Kadeem Hardison. So I did not know about his iconic mother until probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I came upon some writing about her and I started looking into her and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is awesome. So that's Kadeem Hardison's mother, Bethann Hardison. All right, let's get into our reading for today. As we said, we are in the chapter entitled Seeing the Reality of White Supremacy. And of course, I like to rename it as Pseudo Supremacy for obvious reasons. We're looking at the section entitled The Creation of Blackness and The Mirror of Blackness. So we're going to try to read through these two sections, and then we will have some discussion around them. The Creation of Blackness. To understand whiteness, we must begin with Blackness. In the emergence of Blackness, whiteness finds its origin and meaning. Though the African story traces back to the deeper reaches of history, the uniquely African American story begins in the 15th century. Driven together by the early Enlightenment currents of religion, economics, politics, and science, Portuguese explorers and African tribal leaders first beheld one another on the shores of West Africa. In spite of the years of interaction between European traders and the various kingdoms of the African coast, these Portuguese sailors understood little of the people on whose shores they stood. Europeans knew almost nothing of the distinct cultures, diverse languages, complex political structures, and ancient frameworks of spiritual meaning that framed the lives of the various peoples of the African continent. Because of this, they characterize Africans in terms of the feature that most immediately distinguished them from Europeans: Black skin. Now, I'm going to push back a little bit on this author's narrative here because I'm not going to be in denial that these people knew more than they wrote. Some of them wrote the truth. Some of them described Africans with very specific characteristics in their writings. Um, if you tie in, well, not maybe necessarily not West Africa, but if you tie in, obviously, Egypt, Greece, and Rome, and all of them are getting their influence from Africa. So I wouldn't say that they didn't know anything. I would say they maybe downplayed what they knew. I'm going to say it that way. It's not quite true that this emphasis on physical Blackness was an early expression of modern racism. Certainly, Europeans believed themselves to be superior to Africans. Even so, their sense of superiority was based on religious grounds, that the people before them were pagan worshippers of false gods, according to their beliefs, and on cultural grounds, that the people before them were uncivilized and devoid of true culture. And again, I'm going to go back to what we know about their writings. They knew that there were intricate and detailed cultures and spiritual practices. Some of them downplayed that in their writings, but some of them did not. Some of them said these people already have culture. So they had to be a little bit on the delulu side to delude themselves into calling these people uncivilized and therefore concocting or constructing a reason to enslave and dehumanize. The prejudice was there, but the racism was still to come. In the decades following this encounter, European colonial powers struggled to keep up with the insatiable colonial appetite for enslaved labor. The practical problem was where to get the enslaved. There were two obvious markets: the Slavic peoples of Eastern Europe, from which the word slave is derived. So when people say there were other slaves besides African slaves, yes, that is entirely true, who for 500 years had been the favored source of slave labor in Europe, and the native peoples of the so-called New World. But the constant war that resulted from attempting to enslave people who lived nearby and the ravages of disease made these markets impractical. The enslaved would have to be found elsewhere: Africa, the interior, and the coast. Unlike Slavic and native peoples, Africans lived a world away, reducing the need for endless border wars. And unlike the native peoples, Africans proved more resilient to the scourge of European disease. These insights gave rise to a virtually exclusive focus on the trade of Africans. This trade, funded by newly formed European companies, the companies that were formed so that they could human traffic, and enabled by partnerships with African traders, provided the apparently boundless supply of enslaved labor necessary for extending the religious and cultural ambition of Europe imperialism into the New World. Because distinctions between the diverse linguistic, religious, and political backgrounds of the various African tribal peoples were invisible to the European traders, the human beings swept up in the horrors of transatlantic slave trade were simply designated as Black. And again, I'm going to push back on how this is written. I am. Because African tribal peoples' distinct differences were not invisible. I want to know who your editor is. They were not invisible. They had very distinct traits. And if you go back and look at some of the documentation of them writing about meeting certain people, they are very specific about how these people looked. They literally have drawings on the different peoples that they saw. Skin tone drawings, physical feature drawings, hair type drawings. So it wasn't invisible. It wasn't invisible. All right. But they did designate everybody as Black because it is easier to group you as all one thing rather than to acknowledge your individual traits. If I acknowledge your individual traits, then I have to start giving you human characteristics, which is not my intent if I'm going to enslave you. Over time, slavery and a distinctly African form of Blackness became inexorably linked, constituting a significant shift in the meaning of slavery, i.e., the connection to skin color and skin tone. Whereas for hundreds of years, slavery was justified largely on religious and cultural grounds, now an added ground centered the picture on Blackness. Thus, the emerging cultural logic of enslavement in the New World, and for the first time in history, enslavement and Blackness were indivisibly bound together. As with all social processes, this emergence took time. Initially, Africans were enslaved not for their Blackness, but primarily because Europeans viewed them as culturally unenlightened and religiously pagan. But in time, a problem emerged. If, as the European powers claimed, the goal of imperial expansion was to bring culture to the unenlightened and religion to the unconverted, what happens when the project succeeds? And we also have to look at the fact that some of these people that they were enslaving were already Christians. They were already converts, and they still captured them and they still enslaved them in spite of them already being converts and sent them to the New World. So we know that it wasn't just about, oh, if you convert, then we will not enslave you, because they were sending African Christians, Congo Christianity. They were shipping them over too. So what happens when this project succeeds? What happens when the enslaved adopts the religion? What happens when the unconverted converts? On what basis do they remain enslaved? Now you got to come up with another basis, or you just got to lie to yourself. This was precisely the question facing enslaving owners in the American colonies at the end of the 17th century. One option, of course, was to free the enslaved, to consider the imperial goals accomplished, and to enfold the formerly enslaved into the American empire. They could have done that without a war. They could have. But that would be an economic disaster, because without enslaving people, the entire imperial project would fail. Let me say that again, because it's still the case right now. Without enslavement, the entire imperial project would fail. This is why they had to evolve enslavement into the prison industrial complex. Because one more time, without enslavement, the entire imperial project, the caste system on which our nation stands, would fail. From the imperial perspective, slavery had to continue. This continuation required a new justification for slavery: Blackness alone. Now the new justification right now is criminality. The next justification for enslavement is going to be, as we can see right now, illegality of place, also known as illegal alien. These are justifications for enslaving people. Sustaining this justification required an extension of the meaning of Blackness. The mere color of the skin was not sufficient justification for the enslavement of thousands, and in time, millions of people. Coloration needed to signify something more significant, needed to entail certain qualities that were themselves the basis of enslavement. Blackness, in other words, needed to refer to something that was more than just skin deep. Over the course of the 18th and 19th centuries, a new meaning for Blackness emerged. Rather than imply a simple physical description, it became an account of personal capacity. One of the first places that the devil is given a characteristic of any kind is during the Salem witch trials, to which the devil is described as big and black. So now bigness and blackness becomes associated with evil. It became an account of your personal capacity. To be black was to possess lesser mental, emotional, spiritual, and relational capacity. It was to be inferior. It also came to signify a moral deficiency and a tendency towards things like laziness or theft or duplicity and lust. To be black was to be dangerous. So it moved from just being about the color of one's skin to the content of one's character, to the possibility of redemption or non-redemption, or being incapable of being redeemed. As a result of these notions of personal inferiority and moral danger, Blackness also came to take on a new meaning: social marginalization, which is again what we see rearing its ugly head, especially in the Americas. This notion that to be black means that you are inferior, or to be black means that you pose a moral danger. It's why you have people out here who are pseudo supremacists saying, oh, all black preachers need to be under a white preacher because they're not capable of leading, or they have a tendency towards moral ineptitude. These things are deeply centuries old pseudo supremacist doctrines. They didn't just pop up out of nowhere. And the fact that you're still hearing them in 2026 on social media, on podcasts, means that these people are teaching it to themselves, they're teaching it to their children, and they are keeping these evil, twisted doctrines alive. Blackness became not simply a personal, but also a social designation. Over time, blackness came to indicate not merely dark skin, but also dimmed personal capacities, i.e., if I have a black pilot, I wonder if my plane is going to stay up in the air. A shadowed moral orientation, and a place at the hidden margins of the social order. By the middle of the 19th century, this new meaning had been intellectualized by science, baptized by racist churches, and as we will see below, institutionalized across the structures of American life. So why do we keep having to talk about it? Because it's been institutionalized across the structures of American life. And until America is ready to deal with that and unpack how it has been institutionalized and do the work to remove this cancerous institutionalizing, we're going to have to keep talking about it, because we keep having new generations learning these twisted doctrines in which they cannot see the increasing population in the United States as human and equal, just like they are. The next section that we're going to read for today: the mirror of blackness. Understanding this history is crucial because it is in the context of these emerging notions of Blackness that modern racial notions of whiteness emerged. Initially, as notions of Blackness began to emerge as justification for enslavement, slaveholders continued to be understood largely in cultural terms, such as Portuguese, Spanish, and British. While the enslaved were Black, the masters were not yet white. But by the end of the 17th century, a new notion of whiteness began to emerge. As enslavement was identified with Blackness, slaveholding was increasingly identified with those who were not Black. Across various colonial powers, even amid hotly contested disputes over territorial boundaries, these powers were in agreement about one thing: slaves were Black, and they were not. This early emergence of a nascent pan-European identity in response to slavery reveals the original meaning of whiteness to be white simply meant to not be Black. But over time, whiteness came to mean more than this. The mere fact of not having dark skin was not enough to justify the act of holding another person in bondage. Whiteness, too, needed to go beneath the skin. The process of this expanded meaning of whiteness mirrored the expanding meaning of Blackness. As Blackness took on a new meaning, whiteness took on its opposite. Where Blackness signified inferior personal capacity, whiteness signified superior personal capacity. Where Blackness signified moral deficiency, whiteness signified moral virtue. Where Blackness signified the margins of society, whiteness signified a rightful claim to the center. To be white came to mean not only having lighter skin, but also possessing elevated personal capacity, inherent moral virtue, and an assumed place at the center of the social order. So anytime the center of the social order is threatened, you're going to get some backlash. Anytime inherent moral virtue, i.e., listen to white people are in the know, white people know the right thing to say and do, white people should be front and center. Anytime that is threatened or questioned, backlash is going to occur because, again, this is embedded in our society. And as with Blackness, by the middle of the 19th century, the presence of this newly invented notion of whiteness was clearly visible in American cultural life. But the fullness of its social implications was yet to be seen. Now, we're going to stop reading there. There is an ongoing debate in some circles about calling oneself Black. And you have a group of people that say, hey, you don't want to call yourself Black for legal reasons. You should not want to call yourself Black. Call yourself anything other than that. I typically, obviously, know that Black means peoples of African descent. But let's see what they're talking about when it comes to the law. Let's see. So someone was sharing that Black, according to the law, meant someone who was dead in the law or basically had no rights. And they said, well, you can find this in the Black's Law Dictionary. And I said, well, I happen to have a Black's Law Dictionary. Here's mine. I got it a long time ago. I would encourage people to get their own Black's Law Dictionary. But here are some terms in terms of the law, since we're talking about it. One is, let's see, Black Code. Black Code is in here. It's a name given collectively to the body of laws, statutes, and rules in force in various southern states prior to 1865, which regulated the institution of slavery, and particularly those forbidding their reception at public inns and on public conveyances. And then it lists the civil rights cases. So that is the one that I see here. I see blacklist as well. But there's an idea that if you consider yourself or you call yourself Black, you're actually considered dead in the law or as having no rights. And so even the people who are Black in America, some people have advised to call yourself indigenous, or because you have not come from anywhere else. Your descendants have, but you have always been here. You didn't come from somewhere else. And I think Dr. Claude Anderson sort of refers to this by saying Black people are in a special class because we are the only non-immigrant people. We didn't come here by choice. We were kidnapped from our other places and brought here. And then you, of course, you have the native or indigenous Americans, indigenous peoples. And so some people take those two terms and they say, well, I would consider myself Black and indigenous or Black native, meaning I was not brought somewhere from somewhere else. My people were brought, but we've been here since the 1600s. So we were here, some of our descendants were here before there was an America. So I'm actually Black, indigenous, Black, indigenous. Yeah, that right there. Because if your descendants were here before America was America, you're not an immigrant. So just thinking about that. All right, let's talk it out. Let's chop it up a little bit about these ideas of whiteness and Blackness. Pastor Ben, I'm going to send you the link for you to join me in conversation. And I have sent the link. This can become a touchy subject for some people. It's not a touchy subject for me. And I said, in this current iteration of society, we saw what happened with the two people who were unalived. They were white people, but they were not seen as white people. I'll put it that way. They were definitely not seen as white people. And someone, I think it was on Thread, said that when you stand with Black people against oppression or against state violence, you give up your classification of white because you are standing with the oppressed. And I think that is true. I think that that probably sums up how you can lose whiteness or how you can lose that social, economic privilege and capital when you decide to go against the system and you begin to side with the people who have been designated historically as people who can be enslaved and dehumanized. I think when you side with us, you lose your capital. It's telling you you can't join because I'm no longer live. I am live. I'm right here. What are they saying? All right, let me try it again. Okay, there we go. Try it. All right. Sometimes it does that. Sometimes you have to go out and then try to click it again. But
Yeah.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I am fine.
My brother says hello.
hello, Desmond.
Yep.
Tell him I'll probably be back in town. Well,
Don't
I
say
may
it
be
live.
leaving here
Don't say
tomorrow.
it live. Don't say it live. Don't say it live.
Um, that's why I switched to. I'm leaving here to probably leaving here tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, but okay. Hmm. I actually had this conversation. I think it was yesterday on social media about white pseudo supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a religion,
It is. I believe
and
that.
they teach us that black is evil
Mm-hmm.
and bad and
Mm-hmm.
satanic,
Mm-hmm.
and white is pure
Mm-hmm.
and all the good stuff. And that Jesus was white, which we know is a lie,
Mm-hmm.
and God is white.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that they are pure because they're white.
Mm-hmm. And that they are
Hmm
the closest thing on earth to heaven. And
hmm
so when people ask themselves, I think I'll phrase it this way. Usually when a white person that I know has been confronted with a truth that they don't like or an uncomfortable truth about how black people have been treated in this country, their knee jerk reaction is to say, "But I'm good."
hmm
You ever notice that? A lot of white people will
hmm
say, "But I'm good. I'm good." And it's literally because either subconsciously or sometimes through direct instruction, like you said, they have been taught that they are inherently good, that white
hmm
people are naturally good. They've been taught that about themselves. Conversely, a lot of them have been taught that black people are inherently evil, bad, and lazy. Now, the issue comes in when you have propaganda, also known as media, that comes through and enforces through propaganda and through an overexposure to criminality in one group while hiding the criminality in another group, right? If I overexpose you on one group of people doing something bad and I put it on television all day, every day, 24/7, 365 days a week for 40 years of your life, and you've already been ingrained and indoctrinated through your schools, through your community, through your religious spaces, that black people are inherently evil, no good, lazy, trifling, unintelligent, and then you get that reinforced through propaganda, you absolutely are going to have a worldview that says black people, they're just bad people. They're bad
hmm
people, Sally. Stay away from them. I don't want my daughter connected to a black person because I have been indoctrinated my entire life to think that black people are bad and criminal inherently. So when they come
hmm
across the actual norm, okay, because black people aren't the ones committing most of the crime in the country,
Mm-mm.
when they come across a black norm, they look at that person and say, "You're one of the good ones," right?
I've experienced that.
And the reason they say you're one of the good ones is their signal to themselves that you're good like me. That's why they say that. They're telling themselves, I can identify with this person because they're one of the good ones and I'm one of the good ones. This is why they can have black friends and still see the black culture as a whole as a negative thing.
hmm
That's why.
hmm
Because you're one of the good ones. And they associate that with the goodness that they've been trained is inherent to themselves. And so what's happening right now, and I'm going to keep saying this because I don't think people realize how much of a mental fracture white America had with seeing Alex Preddy and Renee Good taken out in cold blood in broad daylight because
Mhm.
those were good people. And see, that's why we just saw the announcement that just came out that they are ending what they're doing in Minnesota because you have fractured the mental idea of the wrong people. You were not supposed to do that. You fractured the fact that if I'm good, all good things are supposed to happen to me. If I'm good, then I'm supposed to be living the American dream. If I'm good, then the gun shouldn't be turned on me and taking me out. It's okay with black people, remember, because the
Mhm.
majority of them in my psyche, the majority of them, I've been trained and taught that they're bad. They're inherently evil. They deserve what happened to them. But when it happens to the person who you have trained me, you have indoctrinated me that white is good. When it happens to the good people, now it's shocking. But
Mhm.
black people have been telling you this, you have been fed propaganda your whole life. And they shattered, I don't know the psychological term for it. I'm sure somebody does. They shattered that idea, that mental framework, that self-image of who black white people are supposed to be in this country.
Mhm.
And I said, and that's why I said they messed up. I've been saying that for weeks. They
Mhm.
have messed up because when you do that, when you shatter that mental image and that ideal of who white people are supposed to be in this country, now you have broken down the partition that when I look at the other person who's been telling me this going on the whole time, now I see them as myself. And America does not ever want that to happen.
Mm-mm.
Because again, when the caste system breaks down, you get Bacon's rebellion. You get everybody coming together. You get everybody coming together to take you down. And
Mhm.
so that's why this operation has to stop pronto. I'm sure Tom Homan got over there and said, listen, listen, Linda, listen, nutcases. Y'all got to shut this down now. I don't care how y'all do it. I don't care what excuse y'all say, but y'all got to get up out of here. Y'all got to get up out of here. I know what your plan was, but you got to get up out of here. You need to try that plan in some other place where it's majority black people and they already have an idea in their mind that black people are criminal. So when we take them down, they won't make too much of a fuss about it because in their mind, black people are already criminal. And so they must have done something wrong to be taken down. But no, you went to Whitey White. You went to Whitey
Mhm.
White, Minnesota, and did this. And now there is a crisis of self image. And I don't think they're going to be able to put it back in the box. That's my thoughts. My thing is,
No.
it's too late. These
Mhm.
white people have seen y'all for what y'all are.
Mhm.
They've seen Empire. Empire pull back the curtain for a moment and let you see it does not care about anything but money.
Mhm.
So all of this
Mhm.
stuff that has been built on and we're trying to protect you and keep you safe and all, nope. It has been about money and power. That's what it's been about.
Listen, I don't think they're going to be able to come to predominantly black area and do that now. I honestly don't. That's how bad they messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you say, the wall is torn down now.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone. Yeah, you still got those diehard MAGA folk that ain't going nowhere. They're gonna literally deny what they see.
Yeah, the 5 to 6 million that watched that, Clanchella the other day. Yeah,
Hmm.
them,
Yeah,
them.
they're gonna hang on to it. But the results are already showing.
Hmm.
Republican stronghold districts, they're getting their butts whooped
Hmm.
by Democrats.
Hmm.
The damage is done. You
Hmm.
can't put that back in the box now.
Yep. People see
Now it's
very
time for
clearly.
damage control,
People see
which you're not going to be
very
able to do.
clearly. People see very clearly.
Hmm. That
You
was a wake
violated.
up.
You violated First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment. Somebody said Fifth Amendment. I was like, yeah, they went down the list.
Hmm.
And so people said, wait a minute, what? I thought you said America first. If you say America first, you're supposed to be for the rights of Americans, not violating them.
Hmm.
And so these people are like, wait a minute. We were okay with you violating black people rights,
Hmm.
but now you violating our rights. And we were like, yeah, they were we were the test drive. When you were silent when they were violating our rights, they were testing out your reaction. We were the
Hmm.
testing ground for reaction, and that's why they kept going. And so now that it's you all, they realize, oopsie, we kind of went a little too far. Went too a little too far with the experiment. They weren't quite ready. They weren't quite ready for us to unalive them. We've been wanting to do that anyway. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
They've been wanting to do it to everybody.
Hmm.
It was never a project that was going to stop at black people. But black people kept trying to tell people this. They're not going to stop with us. They coming for you all next. Philando Castile's mother literally said, y'all see what they did to my son? They're coming for you next. They gonna come for your guns. She said that too. And she
Hmm.
said you're gonna be standing up here just like I am, fighting for the same thing because they coming for y'all next. They ain't believe that lady.
Now,
They did not believe her.
what you just said about coming for your guns, they've been saying for over a decade that the Democrats are coming for your guns. They want to take your guns when they only wanted common sense gun rights to
Mm-hmm.
end shootings and school shootings, mass murders. Those were the type of things they wanted to stop. But now here it is. Their number one guy said shouldn't have guns. Got to get rid of the guns. And a lady very clearly asked him, "What about the Second Amendment?" He ignored that.
Of course he did.
You need to understand that a dictator need to get the guns out of a citizen's hands,
Mm-hmm.
especially according to our Constitution, because our 2A don't just say you can own guns. It tells us why,
Mm-hmm.
which is to overthrow a tyrannical government,
Mm-hmm.
which is what we're under right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not stupid. Well, that's questionable, but um, uh, he understands enough to know
I
that
won't
if the
call I won't
citizens,
call him I won't call him stupid. I don't think he's stupid.
but
I
intellectually
would say
challenged,
he's deceitful. He
that is.
is he is diabolical at scheming.
Mhm.
manipulation,
Mhm.
and charming some people. Some people find him charming. A lot of people find him funny, except the things he's doing to people are not funny.
Mm-mm.
So he does have, he does have that what they would call that it factor. It's just used for diabolical means to
Mhm.
manipulate people, to undermine them, to scheme, to entrap, to rob, for just plain lack of better words.
Mhm.
So he does get he gets on the good side of dictators and tyrants all the time. They love him,
Mhm.
but he is diabolical in
Yes.
his scheming. He is. He
Mhm.
knows how to keep the attention on him. He's very entertaining.
Listen, we've been going through that since day one with Obama,
He's very
keeping the
entertaining.
attention on him.
Um, what was that? A couple of nights ago, he posted all of these pictures of him with black people on True Social. Now,
And
I'm not on True Social because I'm like, how can a platform that's literally lie after lie after lie after lie name itself True Social? This is what I mean by funny.
mhm.
That is a whole irony. You have a platform named True Social, and all you do is spit lies all day, every day. What are we even saying here? The fact that you are using it as the place that you make announcements for the entire America on a platform that all Americans are not on. Neither do we want to be. Okay, I don't want to be forced to get on there, right? But the fact is, you're making announcements on a platform that even your whole country is not on.
Mhm.
So we have to find out secondhand about something you said that pertains to all America in your little private space that you use as your little social digital headquarters. That
Mhm.
is diabolical.
Yeah.
That's diabolical.
Right.
But he put up all of these black people, and then I went and I looked at the pictures because it was a news source that was reporting on it. I looked at the pictures of who he had put up, and I said, a lot of these people you are putting up are questionable to black people. So it's like that's comical because even in your "see, I have black friends, I'm not racist" moment, people are still looking at the people that you chose to put up.
Mhm.
You putting up a picture of you and Diddy is it's like, bro, that's not helping your case.
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, your communication specialist should have told you take that down. Take that down. Why are you putting this up? Why are you putting this up? Him putting up a picture of Oprah. Everybody doesn't rock with Oprah like that. It's like, bruh, you are out of touch. Him putting up a
Mhm.
picture of Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson is a decent person, fairly decent, but he's had some questionable things. Everybody doesn't rock with Jesse Jackson. So it's like you're putting up people to say, see my black friends, and people are like, okay, now I'm gonna really look at you sideways. I'm gonna really look at you sideways because of the people that you put up as your resume of black friends.
Mhm.
So I was just like, this man he is, in many ways, he is entertaining, but he is still diabolical. And no amount of entertaining is gonna make people forget that. Look at
Nope.
what you just look at what you did to the White House. You're calling black people ghetto. But look at what you did to the White House. It looks like something out of the 1960s, like New York, Brooklyn, drug era, buildings crumbling time frame. Hip hop,
Hmm.
early hip hop time frame. That's what you got the White House looking like, with very few remedies of how to fix what you just did.
Right.
And I think somebody said it. I think that's Cat Williams. I don't know if you. He has his new comedy special out, which is wild. But he starts talking about this idea that he breaks stuff first, or he makes a decision, and then he tries to go back and see if it worked, or how to work it, or how to fix it. That's what happened with that White House. He ain't getting nobody's permission that he needed to get.
Mm-mm. Right.
And now most architects will not touch it because the American Institute of Architects put out a note about it, and even told the person who was working on it, you about to get booted out of this institute. Because what in the world would convince you that this is a good project to work on?
Hmm.
What in the world would convince you to go along with this madness? This man, and especially the contractors, this man got y'all to demolish an entire wing of the White House without anybody's clearances, without historic
Hmm.
preservation involved, without all of these, the Department of Interior and all these contractors. What were you all thinking? Contractors in the DC area who should know better than to just demolish something without all of the proper documentations and permits and all of that stuff.
Well, listen, all of them should have known better than to do any work for Trump because nobody gets paid.
Nobody. And now
I mean,
people
why
are
would you even
saying
consider that?
that his so-called, I think they said, like, he got people to invest $400 million in the project. They saying they don't know where the money at. I said, how many things does this man have to start before y'all learn that we don't know where the money at is the modus operandi? How much money y'all gonna keep giving this man before y'all realize the ultimate statement you're gonna be making every time you give him money is, we don't know where the money at. We don't know where the money went.
What I think a lot of people's problems is one of the first things this man did when he in his first term, well, there were two major things. One was convince people that media that tells the truth was false media.
Yeah.
Two, turn everybody following him against the other party.
Yeah.
So now it's like they're stuck that whatever he says got to be right, especially if the Democrats don't like it. So they keep throwing the money after him. He keeps telling, and they keep wondering, okay, what's happened? What happened to the money? This has been going on for over 10 years now,
I
and they still
know.
haven't gotten it.
I know. People who bought those, what was it? It was like some kind of card with his face on it, like a superhero trading cards or
Hmm.
something. Them people never got them cards. Now he got people invested in crypto, in Bitcoin. He got people, the people who supposedly ordered the Trump the gold shoes or whatever. Them
Hmm.
people never got shoes. Like, again, this is what I keep saying. You all be talking about black people being ghetto, but this administration, this regime is out ghettoing the ghetto. At least if homeboy drive through the neighborhood with some sneakers in his trunk, selling them out the back of his trunk, at least you gonna walk away with the sneakers.
Yeah, you get them.
Okay? So don't, I'm like, Listen, I don't want to hear the term ghetto applied to black people ever again. When I think ghetto, I think this regime. I'm telling you.
Hmm.
When I hear ghetto, when I hear the word, that whole regime's face pops up.
And here's
From
another
him,
thing.
from him to the vice president to the DOJ to the press secretary, every last one of them, their face pops up.
Here's another thing. They keep talking about black gangs and brown gangs, and he has the biggest gang,
Right.
the biggest criminal gang
And
of
somebody
them
said that
all.
their budget and their size now is outdoing the FBI, the DHS, and I think they said the CIA, all three. So I was like, yeah, he has essentially made them into his own personal army.
Hmm.
That's what he's done. And the Supreme Court let him. Let's not forget.
Hmm.
Because again, when I think ghetto, I'm also looking at them.
Where are their bonuses?
Cause how? Cause how? How? How did we arrive here? Through immunity. That's how we arrived here.
Hmm.
Through that lovely, unlovely presidential immunity that y'all gave him to act as uncouth as he wanted to without much consequence. Yeah, that's how we got here. And I don't know, if I was in the legal field, I would be ticked off at the Supreme Court. That's what, like, I would be like, what in the what?
Hmm.
A lot of people in the legal field aspire to maybe one day hold a position in the Supreme Court, but I'm sure that aspiration has probably gone a little down, because how do you get that high and then let everything go to hell in a handbasket?
Hmm.
Final thoughts. I know we're past time here. Final thoughts.
We keep saying wake up. Literally, get woke, awaken, which is what woke means. Awaken. Stop allowing yourself to be conned, because it's the same cycle over and over and over, and it never changes with him. Open your eyes. Focus on what you're actually seeing
I
and
can't.
not what he's saying.
I can't. It's hard for me to even hear snippets of him talk. I spend a lot of time reading articles because I'd rather read an article
Me too.
with a transcript of what he said versus hear his
Hmm.
actual voice.
Me too.
That's where I am with any of the news. Give me a reliable source. I'll read what the source is reporting, and then I'll share snippets online. But I shared the thing about him posting the Black Friends, and somebody said, it took me a while to figure out what you meant by FIC 4547. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, because I don't want to say that man's name. I don't want to
Hmm.
say his name on my platform, because I know what the algorithm does. And when the algorithm sees or hears that name, it will start sending you his minions. And by minions, I mean real people and the bots that are trained to come to sites when they hear his name to come and attack your page or your social media. So my last thought, like you said, is stay awake. And you might be laughing at this diabolicalness, but it's still serious. It's still serious. We have
Hmm.
some years to go. Um, Whatever happens this November is going to tell us whether or not we're going to have to go to war to get this man out. Because if they jack up these midterms like they want to jack up the midterms, we are in fact going to have to go to war to get him out. If
Hmm.
what he is planning for the midterms works and people's votes are not counted and votes are stolen, to give people that we know clearly are being voted out to give them their seat yet again, we are probably going to have to go to war as a country to get him out, because that means if it works for the midterms, he's definitely going to try to pull some crazy men in 2028.
Mhm.
He's already trying to work to say um, that he should have won in a certain term, and I think they want to
Mhm.
try to finagle that. Well, since he didn't win in the correct term, then he should get a third term. That's really where they're trying to go.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
because he's gonna look at all the data that he's stealing from election offices, and they're gonna come to the conclusion that he should have won and Biden shouldn't have. Therefore, he should be able to get another term.
Mhm.
Don't put it past these people. Don't put it past them. We'll be back, Lord willing. If I'm still here in November, we're still here in November. The aliens haven't come to get us. Just joking. Um, we'll see in November what goes down.
Mhm.
And if what I think goes down, if it looks like he is stealing elections across the country, then that means he is definitely planning to steal something in 2028.
Yes. But you know what? I'm gonna take it a step further. Even if what he's planning on doing in midterms doesn't work, they're gonna impeach him, and there's gonna be a war to get him out of there anyway, because he's gonna call his private army.
Mm, 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 mm. All right, something to think about. This has
Mhm.
been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I'm being hosted today, Shantae Charles. I want to thank you for your time and your attention. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, evil. So please go out and be what?
Light.
Light. Take care, everyone. Be well, and most importantly, be light. And we will see you back here, hopefully, tomorrow at 12 p.m.